Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Get Your Fix, a Vixxo podcast. I'm your host Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B, and thanks so much for joining us on another video episode of our show. As you're listening to today's thought leadership, make sure you're going to our website, Vixxo.com, again, Vixxo, Vixxo.com, and make sure you're subscribing to Get Your Fix on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just hit that subscribe button and you'll have a full catalog of previous conversations as well as notifications when we drop new ones. So, for our conversation today, we're continuing a series of shorter and snappier interviews on some of the Vixxo basics for our manufacturing clients and really for the manufacturing industry at large, breaking down some of the core tenets of why a third-party installation partner like Vixxo is worth your time, worth your investment, and worth your professional energy as a manufacturer of commercial equipment, technology. Really, if you are an OEM, why should you invest in a third-party facilities partner like Vixxo? Today, we're going to be breaking down some of the needs in the industry and connecting them with what Vixxo provides at scale. So, to that point, what we're going to be chatting about with our interview today is one of the hardest parts of managing project rollouts, at least in my opinion, and that would be managing the sheer scale of installation work. So what we're going to be doing is breaking down some of the core challenges around scaling equipment installations and how a partner can help do more faster. So here to join us and give us some insights today is Mr. Eric Warner, Director of Construction for Vixxo. Great to have you on, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Daniel. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure getting to have a face-to-face sit-down in the same room.
Absolutely.
We've graduated from the Zoom conversations, so it's going to be a good time. I'm really curious to pull your insights on this as Director of Construction. So Eric, to start, I want to learn a little bit more about you as Director of Construction, just so our audience better understands the perspective you're going to be bringing and really what kind of oversight a Director of Construction has at Vixxo and for OEM and construction clients. So go ahead and break that down for us today. Give us a lay of the land of what does the Director of Construction do at Vixxo. Give us a little bit of insight on your expertise.
Sure thing. So 31 years in construction, everything from ground up all the way through remodels, acquisition conversions, rollouts, equipment installations, pretty much just everything that you could imagine has happened in 31 years.
Yeah,
great
sure.
And also sometimes not great.
Yeah.
At Vixxo, the Director of Construction is really responsible for all projects, construction-related projects. We also have an HVAC team and a refrigeration team and a fuel team and different groups that kind of manage through our clients' needs with regards to construction and various projects.
All right. Perfect. Thanks for the context. So now let's get into the meat of the conversation. Again, what we're chatting about today is understanding how installation challenges grow as the scale and the scope of those installation challenges also grow. Really just trying to provide some insight for our audience as they experience some scale, hopefully prepping them for some positive growth. So let's start with just an overview here. As manufacturers grow their business, naturally their reach grows and their scale grows as well. Can you track how that growth also leads to challenges around installation? So as their business grows, how do the installation challenges and the scope of those challenges also grow? Connect the dots for us.
Yeah, I think so. Companies starting out with maybe an emerging technology of some sort, they'll start in a locality or maybe a couple and usually can manage that with a couple of technicians or maybe a small company or two helping them out.
Sure.
But as that piece grows and you start to work across the United States or across North America or wherever you're headed with that thing, it really is difficult to continue to scale up for those pieces. You can't scale up people quick enough. You can't scale up resources quick enough. Logistics become a problem. And those are the types of things that at Vixxo, we have the capabilities to do that. If you've got one installation or 5,000 installations, we can handle those things because we have those partners selected already across the US and Canada to help you out.
Yeah. So you mentioned a few things there I want to follow up on. Let's start with the people aspect of this, scaling the actual professionals who might go on site to deal with installations. As the scope of business grows, how do you see those challenges manifest basically in trying to manage a network of professional installers?
I think there's a few things there. I think you have to look at number one, quality, and then number two, you look at price, and then number three is schedule. All of those things you have to manage at the same time while you're working through those installations. And I think it's important that while you're going down that road, that you have somebody that has dedicated people to look over those installations, to review those things, that your installers in the field are gaining that what we call tribal knowledge of whatever that piece or part is that you're installing, or whatever the technology is. And that way, as you move through, that you just get faster and faster and better and better. And it's one of the things that we can do through training, and we can do through our resources that we have on our side, from tracking and closeouts and pieces like that.
You also mentioned sort of the operational challenges that come with just managing the sheer scope of making sure all departments are on the same page with what's required of the installations, making sure to coordinate between the client and all of the various partners in your provider network. Can you give us some more insight there? Operationally, as business grows, how does the challenges around scaling the operations of installation also grow?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is obviously people, and getting those people in place when they're supposed to be there, where they're supposed to be at the right time. You have communication challenges, you have calendaring challenges, you have geographic challenges. So all of those things, you have to have a partnership with your people that are out in the field working, those technicians in the field working, so that the customer doesn't necessarily see any of those issues. It's a seamless, they were here on this day, they're here on the next day, they're there on that one after that, and they're there on that one after that. And that might be happening in 20 or 30 different geographical areas at the same time. So that management of all of those people and all that communication and all the data coming in for the progress of the project itself is a part of how we are able to do that in such a big scale, is just seeing all of those pieces at the same time and managing all of those pieces at the same time.
Gotcha. So when these OEMs don't have a third-party partner, can you give us a lay of the land for some of the typical ways you see them try to manage those dynamics, the challenges that come from scale on their own? What are their strategies and tactics usually? What works, what doesn't? How does it create pain points?
Most of the time, what we find when we are invited to work with a company, we see that they have a couple of internal technicians that they'll go out and they'll send on a little milk run or two, or maybe they have a regional company that's able to handle maybe a slightly larger amount. But really, when you start needing to work in Florida, California, New York, Pennsylvania, Utah, all these different states at the same time, that's when you really start to see those pain points come in. Because managing all of that from one position, if you're a small group in a company, you're in charge of facilities or you're in charge of installation and you're one person, it's really difficult to manage all those pieces at one time. You need a team that's experienced and a team that has the resources available to go out and hit all of those places at once.
Right. So to that point, Eric, these installation challenges tend to have ramifications beyond just the core group of people that maybe oversee and actually work on the installations. So what I'm curious of is how you see manufacturers have some domino effect challenges as they try to scale their business and they scale their installations. How are other departments affected as well? Kind of give us that view of how one set of challenges can impact an entire organization.
Sure. Well, we'll use a revenue-generating piece of equipment as an example.
Sure.
So you have a company that's trying to sell some sort of revenue-generating. We'll call it an oven. Let's say it's an oven, and they need to install it at a couple thousand locations. And while they're doing that, if they don't have a partner to do that with, they've got to handle all of those pieces, and then they're going to be completely focused on that one action. In the meantime, their sales teams aren't going to be able to go out and sell other large things because they can't produce enough and they can't install enough quick enough.
Right.
That's one of the things. The other side to that on the revenue generating equipment is the faster you get that equipment in those locations, the faster those pieces of equipment start earning money or earning revenue or gross profit for the folks that you're installing them for. So really there's a lot of avenues where if you're not set up to go out and implement quickly, you can really damage your reputation and also damage possibly the financial outlook of somebody that you're working with.
Right. Right, yeah, there's a lot of responsibility there to make sure that, all parties maintain their reputation in
Yeah.
that process. So, if there's an installation problem or as things scale, that starts to have ripple effects, even if the sales department isn't the one that is overseeing any number of those installations, if suddenly your sales team feels like, they are facing the heat for this, that can create a lot of issues both internally and externally. So,
Sure.
Yeah, good point. So following up on that, we've been talking about obviously how having a partner like Vixxo would assist in some of these issues. Can you break that down for us and more specifically give us some insight on what strategies Vixxo has invested in to try to maneuver these scale challenges?
Yeah, so we've invested in quite a few different areas. The first is people, obviously. We have very talented people working for the organization, dedicated project managers for our clients in those types of installations. We also have invested a lot of time and effort in our partners out there across the US and Canada so that when it comes time for something big, we're ready to step out and hit it quickly. And then lastly, I think it would be a technology investment that we've done. We have the ability for our clients to see real time what's happening in the field with documentation of photo documentation of things being installed, photo documentation of issues and resolutions, suggestions of how to fix a problem, and that communication piece back and forth is constant all day long and sometimes all night long, depending on who you're working with.
Right.
And that's really it. I think it's people, it's our network, and our resources that we have in the information technology sector.
I want to expand on that a little bit. The challenges that come from scale, some of them are very predictable, but sometimes it's hard to completely understand how the growth of your business is going to impact all those little moving pieces and predict every single one of those challenges. And I think naturally that leads to OEMs wanting some kind of solution that is flexible, adaptive, and responsive. So in these investments that you've made in quality people, services, technology, all that good stuff, how have you done so also in a way that takes into account that adaptiveness, responsiveness? Do you have any specific strategies you can point to or investments that Vixxo has made to really emphasize that adaptability in your solutions?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've done is we've invested in Smartsheet. I don't know if you've heard of that, and we're using it as a project management software.
Sure.
That software is collaborative. It helps our internal teams collaborate. It helps us communicate externally. It helps us communicate with our folks in the field, and it helps us communicate with our folks that we're working for directly. And also the end client, if they have a desire to see a dashboard or something like that of, hey, here's what's happening real time, in the moment, we can see what's going on. Right. So adaptability with information technology has helped us a lot. And the other side to that, I think, is just the growth of our technicians in the field. And like I talked about a little bit before, that tribal knowledge piece. When you have a guy out there and he's working on the first thing for the very first time, there's a lot to be learned there. We have training prior, we have training during, and then we have a training afterwards too. There's a reason for that, because if we're going to be out again and those same technicians are coming back, we want everybody to talk about the challenges that they had, the opportunities that are there, and what are some things that we could do different the next time around to help better serve the client.
Right. Yeah, totally. Learning from every job, I mean, that's critical. And making sure to encourage that not only in your people, but also build a framework of technology and services that has that as sort of a core tenet, a core vision, I think is critical. And it sounds like that's what Vixxo is doing as well. So let's try to wrap up all of this and add it to some final context. As we look forward, I guess playing into this adaptive nature of how the solution needs to be to really provide value to OEMs, does having an installation partner like Vixxo prepare an organization for future scale, for any future disruptions, whether that comes from just natural expansion and growth, could come from investments in new technology and solutions, or potentially they get merged, or they merge and acquire another company, structural changes, right? Basically, how does having Vixxo on the team prepare for any future scale changes that might hit an OEM, and break down the how and the why, basically?
Well, I think the main thing is as companies grow and change, we have to do that with them, right? The partnership that we have, we don't create a job or a project, we create a partnership at Vixxo, so that when we're talking about the things that we're doing today, we're also using our experience that we've had with other clients and other installations to say, hey, these are some traps that we've run into in the past, and these are some things that can help you in the future as you start to go through these types of things. With adaptive technology that might be changing as we go, if we've gone out and installed something and now they say, hey, we got to upgrade this piece, it needs a new widget on the side, or whatever that piece is, we have the capabilities to run right back and go hit those things again super quickly, efficiently, and cost effectively, because we've already done it once. So now we know where to go, we know exactly what to do, and we know exactly how to take care of it. For companies that might be merging, I think it just goes back to communication again. Yeah. Us being able to communicate to the folks coming in, or the folks that are new to the process of, here's what we do, here's how we do it, here's what we'd like to do for you in the future, and here's how we can become a partner for long term.
Yeah. And that sort of adaptive communication, that's critical, and it's always great to hear that Vixxo prioritizes that. So last thing is, give us your sort of elevator pitch summary. If someone came up to you and said, hey, Eric, I need to be convinced that Vixxo is going to provide our OEM value. What are the main ways that Vixxo is going to help me as an OEM get better installs and do more faster? Give us that elevator pitch summary, how you would frame that.
Sure. I think it goes back to those key points again. I think it goes back to communication up front, understanding, training the folks in the field so that they know what they're supposed to be doing, execution with speed to execution, multiple areas, multiple components happening at the same time. And then lastly, I think it's that collaboration and that visibility to what's happening real time every single day. That's what you need when you're doing those things.
Love it. Communication, investment in the right things, collaboration.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. I think that does it for this episode. Thank you so much again to our Director of Construction, Eric Warner, here at Vixxo. Eric, if folks want to find out more about some of the ways Vixxo is supporting OEMs, specifically around scale of installations, how can they get in touch? How can they learn more?
Absolutely. Go to our website, or you can also email me directly at eric.warner@vixxo.com.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again to our guest, Eric Warner, Director of Construction at Vixxo. Eric, it's really been a pleasure getting to chat. Thank you again.
Thanks, Daniel.
And thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of Get Your Fix, a Vixxo podcast. If you like what you heard and saw and would like to consume some more Vixxo content, make sure you head to our website, Vixxo, Vixxo.com, and subscribe to Get Your Fix on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm your host, Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B, and we'll catch you on another episode of Get Your Fix.